The arena is dark and full of theories.
The 74th Hunger Games, Final Moments, the Cornucopia. 3 tributes remain: Katniss Everdeen, District 12, age 16. Cato, District 2, age 18. The wolf mutations circle below. Genetically engineered creatures with dead tributes' eyes in their skulls, Glimmer's green eyes, Rue's dark eyes, Thresh's brown eyes staring from animal faces. Cato holds Peeta in a headlock, using him as a shield. Katniss has 1 arrow, bow drawn, can't get a clean shot. Katniss shoots Cato's hand. He falls to the mutations. Katniss and Peeta are left alone. They threaten suicide with nightlock berries. Seneca Crane stops them, declares them dual victors. The rebellion begins. Alternate timeline divergence point. Katniss shoots Cato's hand. The arrow pierces through. Cato screams, releases Peeta, falls backward off the cornucopia. The mutations swarm him, claws, teeth, engineered to kill slowly. Cato's screams last hours. Katniss puts an arrow through his skull. Mercy kill. Cannon fires. 2 tributes remain: Katniss and Peeta. Alone on the cornucopia, the mutations retreat into shadows. Gamemaker recall. Claudius Templesmith's voice echoes across the arena. Capitol announcer, cheerful, practiced. Greetings to the final contestants of the 74th Hunger Games. The earlier revision has been revoked. There can be only one victor. One. Good luck, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Silence. Katniss and Peeta stand 20 feet apart. She still has the bow. He has nothing. Injured, leg infection from the sword wound Cato gave him at the initial cornucopia bloodbath. Now days old and festering, barely standing. In the Gamemaker control room, Seneca Crane watches. Head Gamemaker. Middle-aged, maybe in his 40s. Geometrically sculpted beard. Confident, he has escalated the threat. Tracker jackers, mutations, final confrontation. Now he waits for the expected outcome. One kills the other. Standard procedure. Clean ending. Katniss lowers the bow. Peeta watches her. Doesn't understand. She reaches into her pocket, pulls out the nightlock berries, the ones she collected days ago when Foxface died. Poisonous, lethal within minutes, holds them out. Together, Peeta understands immediately, nods, reaches into his own pocket. He kept berries too. Just in case, they each hold a handful. Purple-black, shining. Look at each other, not at the cameras, not at the Capitol, just at each other. In the control room, Seneca Crane sees what's happening. Realizes, reaches for the microphone, hesitates. 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds he doesn't know what to do. The tributes are supposed to fight. Not this, never this. His hand hovers over the controls. Should he stop them, declare them both victors? Would Snow approve? The hesitation is fatal. Katniss and Peeta raise the berries to their mouths. Look at each other one last time. Peeta says something. Lip readers will later confirm his last words. Stay with me. They put the berries in their mouths. Chew, swallow. Seneca Crane hits the microphone button. Stop, stop. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to present the victors of the 74th Hunger. Too late, Katniss and Peeta collapse. Nightlock works fast. Respiratory paralysis, cardiac arrest, 30 seconds from ingestion to death. They fall beside each other, hands reaching, fingers touching. 2 cannons fire. Simultaneous, the arena feeds continue broadcasting, showing their bodies. The cornucopia, the silence. In the control room, chaos erupts. Gamemakers shouting, junior producers trying to cut the feed. Technical difficulties. The broadcast continues for 6 seconds after the cannons. 6 seconds of their bodies visible on every screen in Panem. Then the feed cuts. Capital Seal appears. National anthem plays. Test pattern, nothing else. Every district sees it. Every capital citizen, President Snow. Everyone. There is no victor. There is no one to crown, no one to parade, no one to interview, no one to prove the system works. Just 2 dead children from District 12, and silence. 30 minutes later, senior producers in the Capitol Broadcast Center attempt to contact Seneca Crane. He doesn't respond. Stares at screens showing the empty arena, the bodies being retrieved by hovercraft, the medical team confirming deaths. A junior producer makes a decision, can't leave dead air, plays the anthem, shows the Capitol seal, holds the image, This becomes the image burned into collective memory, the seal, the music, nothing else. An hour after the cannons, President Coriolanus Snow is notified. Elderly, exact age uncertain, but likely in his early 80s. White hair, white roses in his lapel, blood and roses breath from mouth sores, legacy of imperfect antidotes he took while poisoning rivals during his rise to power. He watches the replay, the 6 seconds. Katniss and Peeta raising berries, swallowing, falling. His first order, lock down all broadcasts, complete information control. Second order, summon Seneca Crane immediately. Third order, prepare a cover story. The Capitol cannot admit what just happened, cannot acknowledge that 2 teenagers chose death over compliance, but the footage exists. 6 seconds, already witnessed by millions. Can't be erased, can't be explained away. 6 hours after the broadcast ends, state media issues a bulletin. Brief, vague, inadequate. The 74th Hunger Games concluded tonight. Due to unforeseen circumstances, the Capitol extends its condolences to the families of all fallen tributes. No victor named, no explanation given, no details. The absence of information is itself information. Every district notices. Every citizen understands something unprecedented happened. In the seam, in Gale Hawthorne's house, the room is full of neighbors crowded around the shared screen. Mandatory viewing. Gale watches with his family. Mother. 3 younger siblings, the broadcast plays out before them. He sees Katniss raise the berries, sees her look at Peeta, sees them swallow, sees her fall, the girl he's known since childhood, his hunting partner, his best friend, the person he loves even though he's never said it. Dead. The broadcast cuts. Capitol seal. Anthem. Nothing. The room erupts, his mother crying, neighbors shouting, children screaming. Chaos. Gale sits frozen, can't process, can't breathe, can't think. Then the rage comes, pure, burning, absolute. They killed her. The Capitol killed her. Made her volunteer. Made her fight, made her choose between killing Peeta or dying herself. And she chose death. Chose defiance, chose each other, chose anything except what the Capitol demanded. And they died for it. Gale's hands clench. Every muscle tight. He's hunted his entire life. Tracked animals. Set traps, killed efficiently, cleanly. Now he knows what needs hunting. In canon timeline, Katniss's survival restrains Gale. He can't risk her life, can't endanger her family. His rage stays theoretical, abstract. Here, she's dead. Both restraints are cut simultaneously. He stands, walks out of the house, doesn't say where he's going. His mother calls after him. He doesn't answer. Walks through the seam, dark, cold, midnight approaching. Every house has screens. Every screen showed the same thing. Every family is crying or raging or stunned into silence. District 12 has never rebelled, never organized, never fought back. Too poor, too hungry, too beaten down. That's about to change. 6 hours after the broadcast, Gale finds Ripper at the Hob, black market vendor. Sells white liquor, knows everyone, connects everything. I need to talk to people, minors, men who can fight. Ripper studies him, sees something in his face, nods. What are you planning? They killed her, we should kill them back. The peacekeepers? Tom, Darius, young peacekeeper who always looked the other way when Katniss and Gale hunted illegally. Now he's done looking away. By dawn, Gale has 8 men, all from the seam, all minors, all with families, all with reasons. He doesn't make speeches, doesn't talk about freedom or justice or revolution, just says, they killed her, are you with me or not? All 8 say yes. 12 hours after the broadcast, they map the peacekeeper garrison. District 12's garrison is small, 23 peacekeepers total, under command of head peacekeeper Cray. Relatively lax, District 12 has no history of organized violence. Gale knows the patrol rotations. Watched them for years while hunting illegally. Knows when they're vulnerable. The garrison's supply run happens every 3 days. Morning, peacekeepers escort supply trucks from the train station through the Hob to the barracks. Maximum number of peacekeepers outside fortified positions, in the open, in the market, surrounded by civilians who can provide cover. Perfect kill zone. Over the next 3 days, Gale acquires weapons, mining equipment repurposed as arms, blasting caps, pick handles, wire for garrotes, 1 old rifle and a handgun, contraband that had been hidden in the hob for years, smuggled piece by piece from peacekeepers over decades. Katniss never knew about them. Not sophisticated. Enough. His hunting equipment. Bow. 50 arrows. He's not as good as Katniss was, but he's good enough. The plan forms. Simple. Vicious. Based on hunting principles he's known his whole life combined with explosive knowledge from years in the mines. Create a kill zone, trap the prey, no escape, maximum casualties in minimum time. He's hunted deer, turkeys, rabbits, never hunted men, discovers it's not that different. 6 days after the broadcast, morning comes. The hob fills with its usual crowds. The supply convoy leaves the train station. 6 peacekeepers, 2 supply trucks, standard route through the market. Gale's team is positioned, 4 men at each end of the market route, blasting caps wired to the street. Gale and 2 others on rooftops with bows and the firearms. The convoy enters the kill zone, middle of the market. Civilians shopping, normal morning. Gale triggers the first charge. Explosion at the front end, destroys the lead truck, kills 2 peacekeepers instantly, traps the rest. Second charge at the rear. Cuts off retreat, another peacekeeper dead. 3 peacekeepers remaining, disoriented, weapons drawn, surrounded by screaming civilians. Gale's archers fire, arrows from 3 directions, 2 peacekeepers down, throats, chests, clean shots. Last peacekeeper tries to run, Bristol tackles him, pickaxe through the spine, 4 minutes, 6 peacekeepers dead. The garrison responds. 17 peacekeepers pour out of the barracks, armed, organized, trained. They run straight into the second ambush. Gale's team had anticipated response. Planted charges on the barracks approach road, knowledge of the terrain from years of illegal travel beyond the fence serving him now. Explosions, chaos. 5 more peacekeepers dead in the first 30 seconds. Close quarters fighting, miners with improvised weapons against trained peacekeepers with rifles. Brutal, desperate, vicious. Gale shoots a peacekeeper in the face with an arrow at 15 feet. Reloads. Shoots another through the neck. The hunting skills translate perfectly. Peacekeepers are just larger prey. The fight lasts 12 minutes. When it ends, 18 of District 12's 23 peacekeepers are dead. 5 escaped. Fled into the woods or barricaded in the barracks. Gale's team, 2 dead, 3 injured, everyone else covered in blood, not all their own. They seize the peacekeeper armory, rifles, ammunition, body armor, radios. Enough to outfit 50 fighters. The hob ambush is over. District 12's rebellion has begun. Gale stands in the market, surrounded by bodies, peacekeeper corpses, his own people's corpses, civilian casualties caught in crossfire. Doesn't feel guilt, doesn't feel triumph, just feels certainty. This is what happens now. This is what he does, until the Capitol is dead or he is. In the presidential mansion in Snow's private study, the report arrives. District 12 peacekeeper garrison destroyed. 18 dead. Rebellion active, his reaction is controlled. Measured. He's survived decades of political violence. This is manageable. Except it's not, because District 12's rebellion isn't happening in isolation. In District 11, the agriculture district, Rue's home the night of the broadcast brings the fastest reaction. Already traumatized by Rue's death earlier in the games. Already carrying that grief. When Katniss and Peeta die, the grief converts to rage instantly. Peacekeeper stations attacked with farming tools, scythes, shovels, pitchforks. Workers who spent their lives harvesting grain now harvest peacekeepers. 3 peacekeepers killed before sunrise. 5 more by noon the next day. District 11's leadership tries to suppress the violence. Mayor, peacekeepers, Capitol representatives. They're ignored. The workers don't care about orders anymore, don't care about consequences. They watched a 12-year-old girl get speared in the stomach, watched Katniss cover her in flowers, watched Katniss give the 3-finger salute, watched Katniss die choosing defiance over submission. If she could choose that, so can they. District 11 begins its uprising before any other district, before Gale's hob ambush, before any coordination with District 13. Pure grief reaction converted to revolutionary violence. In District 8, the textile manufacturing district, the response is more organized, slower to materialize, but more strategically coherent. District 8 has existing underground networks, labor organizers, black market connections, people who've been waiting for a spark. The berries footage is the spark. Within 1 week, textile workers seize 3 factories, begin manufacturing for themselves instead of the capital, produce rebel uniforms, bandages, supplies. Peacekeepers attempt to retake the factories. Workers defend with improvised weapons and intimate knowledge of factory layouts. Urban combat, building to building, factory floor to factory floor. District 8 doesn't fall, doesn't submit, begins operating as a genuine insurgency. District 4, the fishing communities with coastal access, boats, mobility, supply chain disruption capacity, responds in its own way. Fishermen start sinking capital supply ships, sabotaging ports, cutting off seafood shipments to the capital. The rebellion spreads like fire across dry timber, 6 districts within 2 weeks. 0 coordination, 0 unified command. Just spontaneous, grief-driven violence erupting everywhere the games were watched. Snow's nightmare is materializing. Not a controlled opposition he can't suppress. An uncontrolled mass reaction he can't contain. 7 days after the broadcast, Snow summons Seneca Crane. Crane arrives at the presidential mansion, knows what's coming, has known since the moment the cannons fired. Snow doesn't yell, doesn't rage, just speaks softly. Clinical, you hesitated. 6 seconds, those 6 seconds have cost me 6 districts. President, I don't want explanations. I want to know if you understand what you've done. Crane understands. Yes, sir. The games are not entertainment. Seneca, they are the foundational technology of control. The moment the technology failed publicly, catastrophically, irreversibly, every structural assumption of our political order became a liability. I know. Do you? Do you understand that tributes are supposed to fight each other, not the system? That giving them agency, weapons, terrain, the ability to speak to each other, an audience, was always a risk? And you made that risk aesthetic, turned it into spectacle, prioritized a good show over control. The ratings opens a drawer, pulls out a crystal bowl, filled with nightlock berries, purple-black, shining, places it in front of Crane. You gave them the idea. You designed an arena with nightlock, you created the possibility, and when they chose it, you hesitated. That hesitation is unforgivable. Crane looks at the berries, understands. You have 2 choices, eat them now. Quick, painless, or I kill your family first, then you. Slowly. Crane's hands shake, reaches for the bowl, takes a handful of berries, looks at Snow. This won't stop the rebellion, no, but it will remind everyone else what happens when they fail me. Crane puts the berries in his mouth, chews, swallows. 30 seconds later, he collapses, dead. Snow has the body removed. The bowl cleaned, returns to his desk. Seneca Crane's execution solves nothing, changes nothing. The districts are already burning, but it sends a message to Snow's inner circle. Failure is death. Even when the failure was structural, even when the failure was inevitable. The message is received, and it makes everything worse, because Snow's advisors now understand that telling him the truth, that the rebellion is spreading, that the districts are coordinating, that the capital is losing control, might get them killed. So they tell him what he wants to hear, that the rebellion is temporary, that it will burn itself out, that increased peacekeeper presence and communications blackouts will contain it. All lies, but lies that let them survive another day. 10 days after the broadcast, Snow's propaganda response begins. 3 attempts, all fail. The first narrative, the accident story. State media broadcasts a revised version. The deaths were a tragic accident. Faulty arena design. The berries weren't supposed to be there. The tributes died by mistake, not choice. This collides immediately with the 6 seconds of footage burned into millions of minds. Everyone saw Katniss raise the berries deliberately, saw them look at each other, saw them choose. No accident narrative survives contact with that image. Districts reject it. Even some capital citizens reject it. The lie is too obvious. The second attempt, the noble sacrifice spin. A new narrative. Frame the deaths as noble tribute to Panem's glory. Martyrs who gave their lives for the honor of the games. This accidentally validates the thing the capital most fears. Framing district children as sacrificial victims rather than willing participants in competition. Snow is forced to call them heroes to avoid calling them victims. Districts hear heroes and conclude correctly that they died in defiance. The spin backfires, makes the martyrdom more powerful. The third attempt, total information blackout, suppressing all footage. All discussion, all reference to circumstances, ban the broadcast, confiscate recordings, punish anyone caught with copies. This suppression is itself newsworthy. In a surveillance state, absence of official narrative creates a vacuum. Rumor and underground footage fill it immediately. Within 48 hours, scratchy recordings of the 6-second broadcast circulate through Hob black markets in Districts 11, 12, and 7. The capital's attempts to control the narrative make it worse. Every suppression effort proves they're scared, reactive, surprised. The mystique of absolute control, the only real weapon Snow possesses, is mortally wounded. 2 weeks after the berries, the structural problem Snow cannot solve becomes undeniable. There is no victor, there is no one to parade through the capital, no one to interview about their gratitude, no one to serve as proof that the system rewards compliance and survival. The entire Victory Tour apparatus, the most powerful recurring propaganda event in Panem's annual calendar, has nothing to tour. The Victory Tour was supposed to happen in 6 weeks, 12 districts, 2 weeks of carefully staged ceremonies proving the game's work, proving the capital is generous and just. Instead, silence. An empty stage. No one to put on it. The absence of a victor is not a minor administrative gap. It is a gaping wound in the state's annual ritual of domination. Snow tries to fill it, proposes honoring all 24 tributes equally with a memorial tour. Peacekeepers will visit each district, acknowledge the fallen, move on. The proposal is idiotic and everyone knows it. Peacekeepers showing up to honor the children they sent to die? Districts will riot. The proposal is quietly abandoned. The Victory Tour apparatus sits empty, dark, unused. For the first time in 74 years, the games produce no propaganda victory, just corpses. 3 weeks after the berries within the capital's own political class, Snow's position destabilizes. His critics, and in a city of ambitious aristocrats there are always critics, now have visible, documented failure to point to. He responded to a threat from 2 teenagers from the poorest district in Panem by killing his own head game maker and achieving nothing. The districts are restless. The propaganda machine is sputtering, and Snow demonstrated he can be outmaneuvered by children. His response? A series of quiet poisonings and disappearances. Targets capital insiders who were loudest in criticisms. Political purge. Effective in silencing opposition short-term, but devastating secondary effect, tells every loyal Snow ally that loyalty is no protection if you're in the wrong room when things go wrong. The trust network that autocrats depend on begins to corrode. Snow is still in power, still president, still controls the military. But he's weaker, and everyone knows it, and weakness in autocracies is the beginning of the end. 3 weeks into the uprising in District 12, Gale faces a strategic question: fortify and hold, or flee to the woods. He chooses a third option that reveals what kind of tactician he is. He fortifies the coal infrastructure. District 12 produces coal, powers significant portions of capital electrical capacity. The mines are valuable, essential. The capital needs them. Gale seizes the mine access points, destroys the rail line to prevent peacekeeper resupply, sends word through black market courier networks to adjacent districts. We killed the peacekeepers. We have the mines. If they bomb us, the coal stops. Tell everyone, this is the strategic masterstroke, not because it works perfectly, but because it creates a genuine military dilemma for Snow. Scorched earth aerial firebombing requires destroying one of Panem's energy production nodes, in middle of a crisis, with other districts watching. That decision carries enormous additional political cost. Snow hesitates. The hesitation gives Gale 6 to 8 weeks to fortify, recruit, prepare. Far more time than he should have had. Gale uses it methodically. 4 weeks into the uprising, Gale converts the mines into a defensive network. Deep tunnels provide shelter against aerial bombardment. He knows the capital will eventually bomb. Saw what they did to District 13 in the history books. Prepared for the same, surface mine facilities become command points in armories. Rail terminus becomes a fortification. If Snow sends peacekeeper reinforcements, they'll come by rail. Gale positions fighters to ambush any approach. Food security, the seam has always been hungry. Gale now has authority to redistribute, organizes systematic hunts in the woods beyond the fence, which is now unmonitored, peacekeepers dead, no one left to enforce boundaries. Establishes communal food supply, uses promise of consistent food as recruitment mechanism. Men fight better when their families are fed. He's watched Katniss feed the Hawthorns for years, understands the politics of food at bone level. Weapons manufacturing. District 12's industrial capacity is limited but not zero. Mine's metalworking equipment produces crude but functional weapons. Spears, knives, reinforced clubs. More importantly, Gale's blasting cap expertise applied to improvised explosive device production. This becomes the rebellion's first documented IED program. Months before District 3's more sophisticated technical work, he teaches 12 men how to wire charges, how to set timers, how to create kill zones. Everything he learned from mining becomes weapons knowledge. Intelligence network uses black market courier networks he's known his whole life, establishes rudimentary intelligence web, reaching into Districts 11, 8, 7, not trying to coordinate national rebellion, just trying to know when peacekeepers are coming. Intelligence gathered is tactical, not strategic. Saves District 12 on 3 occasions when peacekeeper patrol advances are detected early enough to prepare ambushes. By 6 weeks in, District 12 is transformed. From coal mining district to armed fortress. 150 fighters, mostly miners. Some merchants, few women. Gale doesn't exclude them, but mining culture is male-dominated. Those who can fight, do. They're not soldiers, not trained, not disciplined in military sense. But they're motivated, angry, grieving, and Gale has made them dangerous. 5 weeks into the rebellion, a peacekeeper resupply convoy attempts to reach the District 12 cordon. Snow has deployed peacekeepers from neighboring districts to create blockade around District 12, isolate it, prevent it from connecting with wider rebellion. The convoy contains supply trucks, food, ammunition, medical supplies for the cordon forces. Gale's intelligence identifies them as peacekeeper vehicles. Plans ambush. Standard tactical operation. What intelligence doesn't reveal. Convoy contains civilian contractors. Miners from adjacent holding company who've been compelled to drive supply trucks under threat of family punishment. Capital forced them to serve. Gave them no choice. Gale's team ambushes the convoy. Explosives, arrows, rifle fire. Destroys all 5 trucks, kills everyone. 23 dead, 12 peacekeepers, 11 civilian drivers. When civilian deaths become known, through survivor reports from peacekeepers who fled, the incident reaches other districts via courier networks. Gale's response, when asked about the civilian casualties by his own people, is reported as, they were helping the people who killed her. That's a choice. He's 19 years old, has been at war for 5 weeks, already rationalized collateral damage as acceptable cost. The capital attempts to use the atrocity for propaganda. The rebels kill their own people. This is what resistance brings. Because districts don't primarily sympathize with the dead civilians, they sympathize with the impossible position the civilians were in. Forced to serve the capital or face reprisals against families, the capital puts people in those positions. Gale's atrocity is real, but its propaganda value is neutralized by context everyone understands, viscerally. To the districts, Gale is a complicated hero. To the capital, he's a monster. Both assessments are correct. The epithet spreads through capital intelligence reports, the Butcher of 12. Gale hears it, doesn't reject it, wears it like armor. 2 months after the berries, Snow decides the rebellion is temporary grief reaction, will burn itself out within 2 to 3 weeks if not given oxygen. This assessment is not insane, historically grounded in how previous civil unrest in Panem behaved. Spontaneous district uprisings have been local, suppressed before they connect, politically non-contagious because districts have no shared communication infrastructure. What Snow doesn't account for, specific combination of factors the martyr timeline creates. The footage exists, 6 seconds burned into millions of minds. Gale Hawthorne exists, organized, ruthless, effective. Plutarch Heavensby exists and is already in contact with District 13. And the death of a victor candidate, rather than mere death of a tribute, has broken the psychological contract in a way previous suppressions never had to address. Snow's 3-week strategic assessment extends into months. He keeps waiting for the rebellion to collapse. It doesn't. It grows. By the 2nd month, he realizes his error. But correction requires admitting the error, admitting he underestimated district capacity for organized resistance, admitting 2 dead teenagers are more dangerous than he calculated. He doesn't admit it publicly, can't afford to look weak. Instead, escalates suppression without acknowledging the escalation is reactive rather than proactive. Increases peacekeeper deployments, orders communications blackouts, institutes curfews in restive districts, every measure increases flashpoints, every suppression effort creates new rebels. The cycle accelerates. 2 months in, the second week, Plutarch Heavensby makes his move. He's been planning this for months, possibly years. The nightlock anomaly simply moved his timeline forward. He's head Gamemaker now, promoted after Seneca Crane's execution. Access to every capital system, every broadcast infrastructure, every surveillance network, and he's been a District 13 sympathizer for years, waiting for the right moment, the right spark. The berries are the spark. He makes contact with District 13 through pre-established channels. Covert communication network built over years, rebel operatives in the capital, coded messages, arranges extraction, disguised as routine travel to District 3 for arena consultation, hovercraft diverted mid-flight, lands in District 13 territory. Plutarch disappears, capital reports him as killed in hovercraft accident. Rebel attack. Tragic loss. He arrives in District 13 carrying 3 things of incalculable value. 1. Intimate knowledge of capital broadcast infrastructure. Every relay station, every satellite, every override code. The technical architecture that lets District 13 hack capital transmissions. 2. Clean copy of the berries footage. 6 seconds. Perfect quality, no degradation, the most valuable piece of media in Panem. 3. Address book. Personal contacts from decades in capital society. Every socialite, every political operative, every person who expressed ambivalence about Snow's regime at parties where they thought they were among friends. Intelligence goldmine. Identifies who can be turned, who can be blackmailed, who can be used. District 13, Underground Bunker City. President Al McCoy receives Plutarch personally. Age 50+. Gray hair. Severe features. Discipline incarnate. District 13 has been preparing for Second Rebellion for 30 years, since the dark days ended with negotiated truce, since they faked their own destruction and went underground. They have nuclear weapons, underground city, military doctrine, command structures, logistical capacity. What they've been missing, the spark, the symbol, the thing that turns political movement into mass uprising. Katniss Everdeen alive was potential symbol. Katniss Everdeen dead on live television is something far more powerful and far more uncontrollable. Coin understands this immediately. Dead martyrs are more dangerous than living symbols. Living Katniss must be managed, motivated, occasionally contradicted, kept from doing anything that undermines rebellion's strategic aims. She has opinions, emotions, loyalties, trauma responses. Complicated asset. Dead Katniss has none of these inconveniences. Pure image, cannot be captured, cannot be turned, cannot recant, cannot fail, cannot disappoint, can only mean what the person holding her footage needs her to mean. Coin and Plutarch have first meeting in District 13's command center. Deep underground, reinforced, secure. Relationship characterized from day one by mutual utility and mutual suspicion. Coin needs Plutarch's capital knowledge and propagandist's eye. Plutarch needs Coin's military infrastructure and willingness to actually fight. Neither trusts the other. Both work together anyway. Alternative is losing. 3 months in, Plutarch's first major contribution. Propaganda film using Barry's footage as centerpiece. Surrounds it with biographical material on Katniss and Peeta. Opens with Prim's reaping, Katniss pushing through the crowd. I volunteer as tribute. Shows training scores. Katniss is 11. Peeta's 8. Interviews with Caesar Flickerman. Peeta's confession because she came here with me. Rue's death. Katniss covering her in flowers. The 3-finger salute. Thresh sparing Katniss at the feast. Just this time 12. For Rue. Builds emotional weight. Makes them human beings, not tribute units. Maximizes devastation of their deaths. Ends with the berries. No narration, no music in final 30 seconds. Just the footage. Katniss and Peeta looking at each other, raising the berries, swallowing, falling. Cannons, silence. Capital seal, anthem. 11 minutes total. Most watched piece of media in Panem's underground history. Plutarch produces 50 copies on physical media, distributed through courier networks. Each copy generates dozens more. Districts with electronics expertise reproduce it, pass it hand to hand. Within 6 weeks, the Martyr edit has been seen by an estimated 40% of Panem's district population. Underground viewings, secret gatherings, resistance networks, The film's power is not just emotional, it's structural. Provides narrative framework for understanding what happened, gives meaning to the deaths, frames Katniss and Peeta not as victims of capital murder, but as people who chose death over submission. The distinction matters enormously. They were killed produces grief and fear. They chose this produces emulation and rage. Coin wants rage. 3 months in, second week, the first broadcast hijack. Plutarch's knowledge of Capitol broadcast architecture allows District 13's technical team to begin planning signal hijacks. Team led by B.T. Latier, District 3 Victor, won his games decades ago. Electronics genius, technical expert. In canon timeline, BD is captured during Quarter Quell, tortured, eventually rescued. Here, no Quarter Quell exists. He's living in District 3's Victor's village when rebellion begins. Rebel operatives extract him in the 3rd month. Special operation personally planned by Plutarch, who understands BT's value. Extraction successful. BT arrives District 13, immediately assigned to Technical Warfare Division. Works with Plutarch on broadcast hijack. Capital's system has redundancies, encryption, failsafes. But Plutarch knows the override codes, the backdoors, the vulnerabilities. First successful hijack occurs on day 18 of the 3rd month. Capital citizens watching state programming, propaganda broadcast about district prosperity, lies about rebellion being small, localized, already suppressed. Broadcast cuts, static, then the 6 seconds. Katniss and Peeta, berries. Death 90 seconds total before Capital regains control. Shuts down the hijack signal, returns to normal programming. But 90 seconds is enough. Every Capital citizen watching saw it. The footage they've been told doesn't exist. The deaths the Capital tried to frame as accident or noble sacrifice, raw, unedited, undeniable. Impact on district morale is incalculable. Proves the rebellion has technical capability to strike Capital's propaganda machine. Proves the Capital can be hurt. Impact on Capital morale is equally significant. If rebels can hijack broadcasts, what else can they do? How safe is the Capital really? Snow orders complete broadcast system overhaul. New encryption, new protocols. Costs millions of credits. Takes months to implement. During those months, BD hijacks Capital transmissions 4 more times. Each hijack shorter as Capital improves defenses. But each hijack reinforces the message. The Capital is vulnerable. 4 months in, the rebellion's military geography becomes clear. Rebellion occupies, or significantly contests District 12, fully controlled by Gale's forces, 150-plus fighters, fortified mine infrastructure, coal production stopped. District 11, significant portions rebel held. Agriculture workers control multiple grain warehouses. Peacekeepers control district center and transport hubs. Ongoing urban combat. District 8, 3 textile factories seized, producing rebel uniforms, bandages, supplies. Peacekeepers besieging factories but unable to retake them. Building-to-building fighting. District 7, lumber district. Forests provide natural guerrilla terrain. Rebel forces control logging camps and secondary roads. Peacekeepers hold main highways in District Center. District 4, coastal areas contested. Fishing communities sabotaging Capital supply ships, ports. Underwater demolition, maritime guerrilla warfare. District 3, underground networks. Electronics workers providing technical support to rebellion. BD's extraction encouraged others. Peacekeepers control surface. Rebels control subterranean infrastructure. Capital controls. Districts 1, 2, 6, and transport arteries between them. District 2 is critical. Mountain stronghold. Weapons manufacturing. The Nut massive underground military fortress produces 80% of Panem's arsenal. Whoever controls District 2 likely determines war outcome. Both sides know this. Neither ready to fight for it yet. District 13 operates as strategic headquarters. Hasn't committed primary military assets to surface combat. Coin-holding nuclear deterrent and trained army in reserve. Waiting for Capital forces sufficiently degraded to make surface campaign viable. 4 months in, 3rd week, the rebellion's supply chain crisis emerges. Dozen semi-independent district insurgencies fighting with improvised weapons and local food supplies cannot sustain extended operations without centralized resupply. Coin's District 13 infrastructure built to supply smaller, more disciplined force. organic growth of rebellion far exceeds her planning assumptions. Consequences severe. Insurgent units in Districts 9 and 10 face ammunition shortages by month 5. District 11's rebellion, fastest moving and least organized, begins fragmenting as hunger creates internal tensions. Ironic. Agriculture districts starving, but capital managers still control enough infrastructure to deny rebel forces access to food stores. Rebellion doesn't lose these districts, but comes close, multiple times, because it cannot feed and arm the fighters it spontaneously recruited. Coin faces decision. Begins surface supply runs using District 13's hovercraft fleet, accepting exposure risk earlier than planned, or watch the rebellion collapse from logistics failure. 6 months in, she chooses surface supply runs. Right decision barely prevents District 11 uprising collapse, but exposes District 13's hovercraft signatures to Capitol surveillance. Snow now knows District 13 is active, not destroyed, operating as Rebellion Command Center. Changes strategic calculus. Snow must plan for nuclear-armed adversary, not just district insurgencies. Escalates the war in ways that will define the next 2 years. 5 months after the Berries, Snow's most strategically coherent move of early war, securitization of living victors. In canon timeline, several victors captured during Quarter Quell used as leverage. Here, with Rebellion already active and Katniss already dead, Snow moves earlier and more aggressively. Finnick O'Dare, District 4 victor, won the 65th games at age 14. Now 20, 3 bronze skin, sea green eyes, Capitol's favorite. Most popular victor in Panem. Also, exploited by Snow for years, forced into sexual servitude, selling Finnick's body to Capitol elite, using Annie Cresta, Finnick's love, District 4 victor mentally unstable after her games, as leverage. In Martyr timeline, Finnick becomes Snow's most prominent public-facing hostage, brought to Capitol media appearances, forced to make statements condemning rebellion, coerced testimony. The rebels are killing innocent people. I've seen the reports. District 12 murdered civilian drivers. District 11 is burning grain stores that could feed children. This isn't freedom. This is chaos. Statements that rebellion's propaganda apparatus immediately and correctly identifies as coerced. But paradoxically, Finnick's obvious distress makes him more sympathetic, his pain visible, his exploitation undeniable. Becomes recruitment material. This is what the Capitol does to even its favorites. Even victors are slaves. Johanna Mason, District 7 victor, won the 71st games 3 years ago. Pretended weakness, revealed ruthlessness in final days. Axe specialist, bitter, angry, reckless. Snow already destroyed her family, used it to control her for 3 years. Now she has nothing left to threaten. Poor candidate for coercion. No leverage remaining. Snow's security services reach same conclusion. Simply disappear her into detention rather than attempting public use. Disappearance reported by rebel intelligence confirms for fence-sitting districts that Snow's regime has no floor. Will kill even victors who've served him. B.D. Latier, already extracted by rebels in month 3. Contributing to District 13's electronic warfare and IED programs. His contributions decisive. Later military historians will cite BT's technical innovations as determining factor in several major rebel victories. Annie Cresta, District 4. Finnick's love, mentally unstable, witnessed her district partner decapitated during her games, never recovered psychologically. Without Finnick's extraction from Capitol control, which in canon happens during Quarter Quell rescue, Annie remains in District 4. Snow doesn't use her publicly. Holds her as leverage over Finnick. The threat to Annie keeps Finnick's coerced media appearances credible enough to be useful. Dynamic continues until District 4 falls to rebel forces in year 2 of war. 6 months in, Hamish Abernathy enters the picture. Only living District 12 victor. Won the 50th Hunger Games, second Quarter Quell. 24 years ago, age 40, alcoholic, traumatized, barely functional. In canon, Hamish is manipulable alcoholic who can be motivated by love for his tributes. Here he watched both children he was responsible for protecting die on live television. Non-functional for months. Drinks constantly. Doesn't speak. Doesn't leave his Victor's Village house in District 12. When Gale's forces take District 12, they find Hamish alone. Surrounded by empty bottles. Haven't seen him sober in weeks. Gale tries talking to him. We're fighting back. We're making them pay. Katniss would want. Hamish cuts him off. Don't tell me what she'd want. You didn't know her, not like I did. And she's dead because I failed. You didn't fail. The capital, I was supposed to keep them alive. That was my job. 24 years I've been doing this job, and I finally had 2 worth saving. 2 who deserve to live. And I got them killed. Gale leaves him alone. Haymitch isn't useful, not yet. Too broken. But when he becomes functional again, when the alcohol fog lifts enough for clarity, he'll be a man with nothing left to lose. Which makes him dangerous in ways Coin will find both useful and terrifying. 7 months after the berries, Gale makes contact with District 13. Courier network finally establishes connection. Gale receives coded message. District 13 wants to meet. Coordinate, integrate District 12 operations into wider rebellion strategy. Gale agrees. Takes 2 men, leaves District 12 under command of Bristol, travels to District 13 territory. The journey takes 4 days, through woods, abandoned towns, avoiding capital patrols. Dangerous, worth it. Arrives District 13. Underground, massive, military compound disguised as destroyed ruins on surface. President Coin receives him personally. Command center, 30 feet underground, reinforced concrete. Maps, covering walls. Mr. Hawthorne, your District 12 operation has been impressive, tactically sound, strategically valuable. We'd like to integrate your forces into unified rebel command structure. Seize discipline, control, military precision. Everything District 12 isn't. What does integration mean? Your forces would receive supplies, weapons, intelligence support from District 13. In exchange, you'd accept strategic direction from our military command, coordinated operations, unified objectives, and if I don't accept, then you continue operating independently, without our support, and likely get crushed when Snow decides District 12's coal isn't worth the political cost of leaving you alive. District 12 is fortified but isolated. Can't hold indefinitely without resupply. I accept, with one condition. What condition? I choose my targets. You can give me strategic objectives, but I decide how to achieve them, my way. Coin considers, sees what Gale is. Weapon, not soldier. Can't be fully controlled, but can be pointed. Agreed. You'll have operational autonomy, but if your methods create strategic problems for the wider rebellion, I reserve right to remove you from command. Fair, they shake hands, Gale integrated into rebel command structure. But not civilized, not softened, not restrained. Coin doesn't try, just points him at things she needs destroyed. 8 months in, the rebellion has approximately 8,000 active fighters across 6 districts. Distribution uneven, training inconsistent, equipment inadequate. District 12, 200 fighters under Gale's command. Best equipped, seized Peacekeeper Armory. Most tactically competent, Gale's training. Most ruthless, District 11, 2,500 fighters. Largest force, least organized, agricultural workers with farming tools and improvised weapons. High motivation, poor discipline. District 8, 800 fighters, urban guerrillas, factory workers, good at building-to-building combat, weak in open terrain. District 7, 600 fighters, forest guerrillas, excellent at ambush tactics, poor at holding territory. District 4, 400 fighters, maritime specialists, sabotage and underwater operations. Can't contest land territory. District 3, 300 fighters, technical specialists, provide intelligence, communications, electronics warfare, not combat effective. District 13, 3,200 trained soldiers, professional military, best equipped, best trained, best disciplined, held in reserve, Coin waiting for right moment to commit them. Capital peacekeepers, approximately 40,000 active, better equipped, better trained, air support, artillery, armor. Rebellion outmatched in conventional military terms, relies on guerrilla tactics, popular support, and capital's need to preserve district infrastructure. If Snow willing to destroy everything, scorched earth, no concern for economic damage, rebellion loses. But Snow needs the districts functional, needs their resources, needs to win without destroying what he's fighting for. That constraint is rebellion's primary advantage. Year 2 begins, the 75th year of blood. There is no 75th Hunger Games, no quarter quell, no arena, no tributes, no broadcast. Just war, ugly, grinding, district-by-district war that the capital is losing slowly, and the rebellion is winning at a cost that will haunt whatever comes after for generations. The first month of Year 2 establishes the military balance sheet. Rebellion controls periphery, outer resource-producing districts. Capital retains control of core. Transport network, armaments industry, District 2, massive peacekeeper force. Snow brings in new military command structure, experience in domestic pacification. New peacekeeper doctrine emphasizes collective punishment, systematic destruction of rebel-held communities to deprive insurgents of cover and supply. Militarily effective short-term, politically catastrophic long-term. Every destroyed village produces 200 new recruits. Air power imbalance, capital retains significant air superiority. Hovercraft strikes against rebel-held territory are single most militarily effective tool in capital arsenal. Rebellion's anti-air capacity limited to captured peacekeeper weapons and early prototypes of BT's ground-to-air systems. Not yet deployable at scale, this air power advantage persists until Year 3. District 2 problem. Mountain stronghold. The nut cannot be taken by forces rebellion currently has. Fortress city integrated with capital's primary military production. Coin designates it Year 3 objective. Focuses Year 2 operations on cutting supply lines and degrading defenders' morale through sustained pressure. Gale's integration into rebel command contentious. Doesn't take orders well. Doesn't accept strategic patience. Tactical instincts frequently run ahead of logistics required to support them. But Coin recognizes his value, not as commander. As weapon, doesn't try to civilize him. Points him at things she needs destroyed. Year 2, Month 3. Battle of District 5. Power District. Hydroelectric dam. If rebels seize it, cut capital power. Critical target. Capital defense. 800 peacekeepers. Fortified positions. Artillery. Air support. Rebel assault force. 1,200 fighters. Mixed units from Districts 7, 11, and 13. Commanded by District 13 officer. Major Lime, former peacekeeper who defected. Gale attached as tactical advisor. Reality. Coin wants him there to do what conventional commanders won't. Brutal tactics that win battles at high cost. 3-day battle. Day 1, rebel forces advance under cover of early morning fog. Gale's IEDs destroy 2 peacekeeper artillery positions before capital realizes they're under attack. Fighting reaches dam perimeter by noon. Close quarters combat, brutal. Peacekeepers defending high-value target fight viciously. Day 2, capital air support arrives. Hovercraft strafe rebel positions. Casualties mount. 200 rebels dead by end of Day 2. Gale proposes solution. Suicide bombing. Load hovercraft wreckage. Rebels shot 1 down Day 1. With explosives. Drive it into dam's control center. Volunteers crew it knowing they'll die. Major Lime refuses. We don't send people on suicide missions. Gale. Then we lose. Those are the options. Lime holds her ground. Conventional assault continues. Day 3. Capital reinforcements arrive. 400 additional peacekeepers. Rebels forced to retreat or face encirclement. Major Lime orders withdrawal. Gale argues. Overruled. They retreat. Battle of District 5. Capital victory. Rebel casualties. 340 dead. 200 wounded. Capital casualties, 180 dead, 100 wounded. Rebels failed to take the dam, failed the objective. Gale returns to District 13, meets with Coin privately. Lime cost us that battle, refused to do what was necessary. Coin, she refused to waste lives on tactics with low success probability. It wasn't low probability. It would have worked, perhaps. But conventional commanders follow conventional doctrine. That's why I sent you. To show me what unconventional looks like, you did. I learned what I needed to learn. Which is, that you're right. We can't win this war conventionally. We need tactics that make the capital afraid. Tactics that maximize psychological impact per unit of force. Tactics that conventional commanders won't approve. Coin leans forward. I'm creating a special operations unit. Unconventional. Warfare. You'll command it. Autonomy to design your own tactics. No oversight from officers like Lime. Gale, what's the catch? No catch. Just results. Win battles. Break capital morale. I don't care how you do it. Just do it. Gale accepts. Special Operations Command established. 50 hand-picked fighters. All volunteers. all willing to cross lines conventional forces won't. Year 2, Month 6. Gale's bomb philosophy deployed without restraint. The double-tap bomb strategy. Two-stage explosive designed so first detonation draws in emergency responders, second detonation kills them. One of most morally significant tactical innovations of the war. In canon timeline, Gale designs it, it's used once at Snow's mansion. Katniss reacts with horror. Here, it enters Rebellion's standard tactical manual. Used approximately 40 documented times across 3 years of fighting. Strategic rationale coherent. Capital's military has superior weapons, training, numbers. Asymmetric tactics that maximize psychological impact per unit of explosive are correct from purely military standpoint. First responders are part of Capital's war-fighting ecosystem. Disrupting medical and emergency response degrades Capital's resilience. Logic as old as siege warfare. Also the logic that makes the word terrorism necessary in every language that has war in its history. First deployment, Year 2, Month 6. District 6 Transport Hub. Capital Supply Depot. Gale's team plants bomb in depot's loading bay. Timer set for 0600 hours. Shift change, maximum personnel. Explosion kills 12 Peacekeeper logistics staff. Alarms sound, emergency response teams rush to scene. Firefighters, medics, security. Second bomb detonates 3 minutes later. Kills 28 responders. Total casualties, 40 dead. Depot destroyed. Supply chain disrupted for 2 weeks. Tactical outcome, successful. Measurable operational value. Strategic outcome, Capital Peacekeeper willingness to respond to explosive incidents drops. Response times in contested zones slow by estimated 40% in areas where tactic has been used. Genuine military advantage. Also, produces condemnation within Panem's political discourse. From Capital citizens who might otherwise remained neutral. From some district populations who find tactic indistinguishable from Capital's collective punishment doctrine. From rebel leadership figures who fear winning this way means inheriting post-war world that has normalized atrocity. Coin, when confronted with concerns, responds, "Winning is prerequisite for everything else." She's not wrong. Also not entirely right. Year 2, Month 8. Gale's psychological evolution. By Year 2, Gale Hawthorne is no longer the grieving young man from the seam. He's become something that has no good name. Person who has absorbed several years of industrial-scale violence and emerged not traumatized but clarified. Has resolved internal conflict by eliminating internal conflict. Does what war requires. Doesn't feel it. From military effectiveness standpoint, extremely dangerous. From human standpoint, more or less lost. One documented incident illustrates the transformation. Rebel forces assault Peacekeeper barracks, building captured, 68 Peacekeepers surrender. Standard protocol, take prisoners, hold for potential exchange, treat according to basic humanitarian principles. Gale's unit has no capacity to hold prisoners, no facility, no guards, no supplies to feed them. 68 prisoners means 68 mouths draining rebel logistics. He orders executions. All 68, quick, efficient, bullet to the head. One of his own fighters objects. They surrendered. We can't just... Gale, we can't hold them, can't release them, can't feed them. Those are the options. I'm choosing the one that doesn't cost us resources. The executions proceed. 68 Peacekeepers dead, bodies left in the barracks. Message to the next Capital forces who arrive. The fighter who objected requests transfer to conventional units. Gale approves it. No hard feelings, just incompatible operational philosophies. Later that night, one of Gale's team asks him, "Does it bother you, the Peacekeepers?" This is what happens. The absence of doubt, the absence of guilt, the absence of internal conflict makes him effective, also makes him the kind of person who cannot transition to peace, cannot rebuild, cannot heal. War consumes him completely. By Year 2, nothing else remains. Year 2, Month 10. Coin's consolidation. As rebellion moves from insurgency to conventional military campaign, Coin makes political moves transparently preparatory for post-war governance. Creates rebel provisional government, Council of 13, stacked with District 13 loyalists. Institutes military conscription in rebel-held territories. Provides soldiers. Also establishes precedent that rebel government has sovereign authority over district citizens' bodies. Begins issuing provisional regulations on food distribution, movement, communication in rebel-held areas. reads less like wartime necessities, more like administrative infrastructure of new authoritarian state. Several rebel commanders raise concerns. District 12 veterans, District 11 uprising figures. The concerns are registered, acknowledged, ignored. Coin's position unassailable. She has the army. The nuclear deterrent. The propaganda infrastructure. Dissent not treated as treason, not yet, but treated as distraction at best, security risk at worst. Plutarch Heavensby watches this consolidation, understands what Coin is building, tries to moderate her worst impulses, elections in rebel-held territories, civilian oversight of military operations, constitutional framework for post-war government. Coin listens politely, implements nothing. We'll address governance after we win. Right now, we need unity of command. Plutarch recognizes the argument. Every authoritarian in history has made it. Temporary emergency powers that somehow never become temporary. He's the only person in Coin's inner circle with historical memory, moral intelligence, and political skill to build something genuinely different. He chooses not to fully oppose her, works within the system she's building, maneuvering for better outcomes at margins, prevents worst excesses, doesn't prevent fundamental trajectory. New Panem looking a great deal like old one without the games. Different face on posters. Year 3. The Total War phase. In canon timeline, Katniss Everdeen exists in state of permanent productive moral tension with rebellion's leadership. She's the conscience that limits war's worst impulses. Intervenes, refuses, argues, withholds. In Martyr timeline, she's not there. And in absence of that friction, rebellion and its enemies converge on common methodology. Total war. With no floor on acceptable tactics. Year 3, Month 2. Snows scorched earth. Capital begins systematic destruction of rebel-held districts. If can't hold territory, destroy it. Deny rebels the resources. District 9, grain production. Capital hovercrafts firebomb grain silos. 3 days of bombing. Food stores for 50,000 people destroyed. District 10, livestock. Carpet bombing of ranches and processing facilities. Livestock killed. Infrastructure destroyed. Estimated 30,000 civilians dead in these operations. Mostly starvation in weeks following bombings, not direct casualties. Second-order deaths, harder to assign blame. Precisely why Snow prefers it. Rebel response, escalate. If capital destroys districts, rebels destroy capital infrastructure in held territories. District 3 rebels sabotage power grid. Rolling blackouts across capital and districts 1, 2, 6. Infrastructure damage takes months to repair. District 4 rebels sink capital cargo ships. 43 ships over 6 months. Food shipments, medical supplies, civilian goods. Thousands drowned. Cargo lost. The war produces suffering at scale dwarfing Hunger Games themselves. Games' suffering was concentrated, publicly legible. War's suffering is diffuse, chaotic, harder to assign blame, which is precisely why Snow prefers it to alternatives. Year 3, Month 5, the Nut campaign begins. District 2, Mountain Stronghold. The Nut, massive underground military fortress built into Rocky Mountains, houses 60,000 workers, produces 80% of Panem's military arsenal, most fortified position in Panem outside capital itself. Cannot be taken by conventional assault, too many defenders, too much firepower, too strong. Coin assigns Gale to develop unconventional solution. He studies the mountain for 3 months, maps approaches, analyzes defenses, interviews District 2 defectors about internal layout, develops plan, characteristically straightforward, characteristically brutal, seal the entrances with avalanches triggered by explosive charges. Wait. Thousands inside, capital military and civilian personnel. Many District 2 citizens who chose capital's side die slowly of asphyxiation and starvation, or forced to surrender through one exit the plan leaves open, where rebel force is waiting. Presence plan to Coin, War Council, underground command center, maps showing Nut's defenses, explosive charges here, here, and here, points to mountain face, trigger avalanches, seal primary entrances. Secondary exits here and here, seal with smaller charges. Leave this exit open. Points to eastern approach. They'll have to surrender through it. We control the exit. They surrender or die inside. One of the district commanders objects. That's a death trap. thousands of civilians inside, workers, families. Gale, thousands of people manufacturing weapons killing our fighters. They chose their side. They didn't choose. They were born there, worked there, had no real alternative. Then they can surrender. Exits available. Anyone who wants to live can walk out. Another commander, what about those who can't reach the exit? Old people, injured, children. They'll die. The bluntness stuns them. Coin, how long until they're forced to surrender? Gale, depends on their supplies. Estimate 2 to 4 weeks. Air inside will become unbreathable as oxygen depletes. They'll surrender before everyone asphyxiates. Coin considers, knows this is atrocity. Also knows conventional assault on the nut would cost thousands of rebel lives with uncertain success. Utilitarian calculation, 1,000 civilians versus 1,000 fighters. She chooses fighters. Approved. Execute the operation. In canon timeline, Katniss is present for this decision. Argues passionately for alternatives. Forces Coin to consider using her voice, Katniss's voice, to turn District 2 workers rather than kill them. Her intervention doesn't prevent all casualties, but prevents the worst outcome. Saves thousands. Here, no Katniss, no one argues, no one forces alternatives. The plan proceeds. Year 3, Month 6, the nut falls. Gale's team plants charges, weeks of preparation, smuggling explosives into position, rigging detonators, coordinating timing. Day of operation, 0600 hours. Explosions trigger, avalanches cascade down mountain face. Tons of rock and snow seal primary entrances, secondary exits sealed simultaneously. Smaller charges, but sufficient. Eastern exit left open. Rebel forces positioned, waiting. Inside the nut, chaos, alarms, confusion. Defenders realize what happened, scramble to find exits, discover all sealed except one. Stampede toward eastern exit, thousands trying to escape simultaneously. Trampling, panic, crush injuries. Rebel forces at exit, surrender, drop weapons, exit single file. Some comply, hands raised, weapons dropped. Processed as prisoners, some try to fight their way out, shot immediately, bodies pile at exit mouth. Some never reach exit, too deep inside, too far, oxygen depleting, die underground. Operation lasts 6 days. Total casualties never accurately established. Estimates range from 2,000 to 8,000 dead. The nut falls. District 2's military production capacity crippled. Capital loses most of its weapons manufacturing. Strategic victory, decisive. War changing also, atrocity by any definition. Mass killing of people who never fired shot, workers, families, civilians. Gale watches from command post as survivors stream out eastern exit. Doesn't feel guilt, doesn't feel triumph, feels certainty. This was necessary, this was war. This was what winning costs. Year 3, Month 8, the character of the war. By year 3, war is not clean lines and decisive battles. It's ambushes, reprisals, destroyed infrastructure. Civilian populations trapped between armed forces both claiming to fight for them. Districts change hands multiple times. Rebel advance liberates population 1 week. Capital counteroffensive destroys their homes next week. Physical infrastructure of Panem, already barely adequate for district's needs, systematically degraded by 3 years of combat. Humanitarian consequences severe. Medical capacity in rebel-held territory almost non-existent outside District 13. Food security in contested districts collapses as agricultural operations cease under fire. Population displacement creates refugee flows both sides struggle to manage. Capital, because doesn't want to. Rebellion, because doesn't have capacity. War produces suffering at scale, diffuse, chaotic, harder to assign blame. But suffered nonetheless. Year 4, the final campaign. Capital surrounded. Districts 1, 2, 6 fallen. Capital itself remains. Heavily defended, full of civilians, heavily fortified city that has been cultural center of known world for 75 years. Fights with specific, desperate violence of population told correctly that losing means end of everything they know, possibly end of their lives. Year 4, Month 1. The capital campaign begins. Combined rebel force, 15,000 fighters, District 13 professional military, plus district insurgents integrated into unified command. Capital defense, 25,000 peacekeepers, 10,000 civilian militia, snow-distributed weapons to defense associations, automated defenses, fortifications, urban warfare, building to building, street to street, block by block. Rebel advance requires disciplined restraint. Capital civilians are potential victims and potential combatants, many wealthy, many armed, many ideologically committed to capital survival because alternative means accountability for 75 years of complicity. Gale's urban tactics, double-tap methodology adapted to urban environments, explosive devices in transit nodes, government buildings, military communications infrastructure, effective, also indiscriminate in civilian-dense environment ways rural application wasn't. Civilian casualty count in capital advance substantially higher than any previous rebel operation. Year 4, Month 3. Coin's parallel political operation. Even as fighting continues, Coin's provisional government issuing decrees, establishing administrative structures, positioning loyalists in institutions that will become new state. War still technically happening. Coin already governing, noticed by Plutarch, by Haymitch, by commanders from Districts 11 and 7. Concerns registered ignored. Year 4, Month 5. Snow's fortification of Presidential Mansion. Snow retreats to Presidential Mansion as city falls block by block, uses Mansion's rose gardens as staging ground. In move of particular cruelty, fills Mansion grounds with human shields. Capital children from influential families, parents' political connections kept them in Mansion. Rebel advance stalls at Mansion perimeter, 11 days. Gale proposes artillery bombardment. We shell the Mansion, accept civilian casualties. End the siege. Even Coin unwilling to deliberately kill children on camera, too reminiscent of Capital's methods. Bad optics for post-war legitimacy. Conventional assault continues. Slow, bloody, fighting through Mansion defenses room by room. Year 4, Month 7. Snow's capture, snow found in destroyed rose garden. Advanced state of ill health. Cumulative effect of years of poisoning practices combined with physical privations of siege. Not the commanding figure of his prime. Old man in destroyed garden. Captured by unit that doesn't include Katniss Everdeen. Because Katniss Everdeen has been dead for 4 years. This is the hinge point of entire post-war period. Place where Martyr timeline delivers most devastating verdict. In canon timeline, Snow tells Katniss truth about Coin's bomb before execution. Katniss believes him. Kills Coin instead of Snow. Act of personal justice that also prevents installation of second authoritarian government. System resets imperfectly but genuinely. In Martyr timeline, this correction cannot happen. Snow tells truth about Coin to whoever will listen. No one with public credibility, emotional authority, and personal stake to act on it is in position to do so. Day 1 of captivity, Snow brought before Coin's provisional government. Council chamber, underground, secure, cooperative in way that unsettles everyone. Knows he's going to die, trying to determine whether anything he says can change what comes after. Coin, President Snow, you're charged with crimes against the districts of Panem. 75 years of systematic oppression, the Hunger Games, mass murder. You'll be executed. The only question is what you want to say first. Snow, I want to tell you about the bomb. What bomb? The one you're planning. Parachutes, capital children, designed to look like humanitarian aid. Second explosion kills the medical responders. Your specialty, isn't it? Looks at someone off to the side. Gale tenses. How does Snow know about double-tap methodology? Snow continues. You'll blame it on me. My final cruelty. Use it to justify whatever comes next. Consolidate power. Eliminate opposition. Become exactly what I was. Coin, you're delusional. There is no such plan. Not yet. But there will be, because you're building a system that requires enemies, requires crises, requires emergency powers that never end. I recognize it. I built it, you're just better at pretending it's different. Plutarch shifts uncomfortably. Haymitch, present in the room as District 12 representative, watches Snow carefully. Snow, whatever she tells you she's building, ask her to show you the blueprints. Ask her when the emergency powers end. Ask her who decides when security conditions permit elections. Ask her who holds her accountable. Coin, I'm accountable to the Council of 13, which you appointed, which serves at your pleasure. which has never voted against you on any significant question. Snow coughs. Blood flecks his lips. I'm dying. My regime is over. I have no reason to lie. I'm telling you, she is me. Different face, different rhetoric. Same system. Silence. Coin, take him back to his cell. We'll hold the trial tomorrow. Snow removed. Council chamber empties. Only Coin, Plutarch, and Haymitch remain. Haymitch, was he lying? Coin, of course he was lying. He's a dictator. It's what they do. Plutarch, what about the parachute bomb? That's very specific. He heard intelligence reports. Knows we've been using double-tap methodology. Extrapolated. Made a guess. Coin stands. He's trying to divide us. Make us doubt each other. Standard autocrat playbook. Don't let him succeed. Plutarch wants to believe her. Almost does. Haymitch doesn't say anything. Just watches her leave. Then pulls out a flask. Drinks. Day 7. Gale executes Snow. No trial. Presidential mansion courtyard. Public filmed. Gale volunteers to do it. Coin approves. Symbolic. The butcher of 12 executing the architect of the games. Snow brought out. Weak. Dying already. Poison eating him from inside. Gale. Any last words? Snow looks at the camera. At Panem watching. Whatever she tells you she's building, ask her to show you the blueprints. Gale shoots him. Single bullet. Head. Dead. Footage circulates immediately. All of Panem sees it. Capital's monster killed by district rebel. Justice. Victory. Closure. Snow's last words dismissed as delusions of dying autocrat. Most people don't hear them. Don't process them. Don't think about them. Plutarch hears them. Keeps reaction private. Haymitch hears them. Drinks more. Year 4, month 8. The power vacuum. Snow dead. Capital's military in ruins. Coin moves with speed and confidence of someone who's been planning this moment for 30 years. Council of 13 declares itself transitional authority of Panem. Constitutional convention announced for year 5. Elections promised once security conditions permit. Continued housing and capital secured. Their celebrities. Celebrity useful for stabilization narratives. What follows not dictatorship in Baroque theatrical sense of Snow's regime. Something more insidious. Calcification of wartime emergency government that has every institutional justification for extraordinary powers and no institutional mechanism to give them up. Coin has nuclear weapons. Only surviving functional army. Propaganda infrastructure. The martyr's images which she controls. Gale Hawthorne, loyal because she gave his grief purpose. More effective instrument of internal intimidation than Snow's peacekeepers ever were. Month 8, Week 2. The final Hunger Games proposal. Coin convenes Council of 13. Special session. Secure chamber. We've won the war, but we haven't won the peace. Capital citizens remain hostile, resentful, potentially dangerous. We need closure, symbolic justice that satisfies district's desire for accountability. Presence proposal. Final Hunger Games. Using capital children. 75 years of district children died in the arena. One final games. Capital children. Show them what it felt like, then end the games forever. Symbolic. Just. The proposal meets stunned silence, then responses. Mixed District 11 representative, they killed our children for 75 years. They should feel what we felt. District 7 representative, this is exactly what we fought against. Killing children is wrong, whether district or capital. District 4 representative, how does killing more children honor the ones who died? Gale, it doesn't honor them. It ensures capital citizens understand consequences, that they can't return to comfortable ignorance, that their children are as vulnerable as ours were. Debate continues. Ours, passionate, divided. Plutarch argues against. This validates everything Snow stood for. Proves violence as answer. Proves systems don't matter, only power. If we do this, we become them. Coin, we become victors. That's what matters. The rebellion wasn't about principles. It was about winning. This ensures we stay winners. Haymitch, who's been silent entire debate, finally speaks. Vote. Vote taken. 7-4. 6 against. Tie. Haymitch's deciding vote. He looks at Coin, at Plutarch, at Gale, at the representatives arguing, thinks about Katniss and Peeta, the berries, the choice they made, what they died for. No. Coin, what? No, we're not doing this. They'd have hated it. and they're the only reason we won. So no, his vote decides it. Final Hunger Games proposal declined, but closeness of decision reveals moral state of new government. Not 1-2, 1 not 1-0, 3-7-6. Half the council wanted to kill capital children for revenge. Half. After vote, Haymitch asked why he voted that way. Because they'd have wanted me to. Doesn't specify who they are. Everyone knows. Year 5. New Panem. Coin's transitional authority continues. Constitutional convention delayed. Security conditions not yet met. Elections postponed. Further stabilization required. The emergency becomes normal. The transitional becomes indefinite. Plutarch works within system, maneuvering at margins. Prevents worst outcomes. Loosens speech restrictions. Pushes for more open election timeline. Gets small victories. Doesn't prevent fundamental outcome. New Panem looking like old one. Without games. Different face on posters. Same structure underneath. Gale given position in new government security apparatus. Perfect job for man of his skills. Worst possible job for society trying to build something new. Effective. Feared. Deeply alone. Year 5, day 143. Visits ruins of District 12. First time since the war ended. Rebuilt. Smaller. Different. Few hundred residents, mostly returning refugees. Stands at edge of the seam, where his house was, where Katniss's house was. All gone. Rebuilt as something else. Looks at the woods beyond, where they hunted together, where she taught him to shoot better, where they talked about running away before the reaping changed everything, stands for a long time, silent, remembering, leaves without speaking to anyone, returns to capital, never visits again, Haymitch's epilogue, returns to rebuilt District 12, keeps geese, drinks, alone. Asked once by journalist what he thinks the martyrs died for. Ask me again in 50 years and I'll tell you if it was worth it. Dead within decade. Never answers the question. Never stops wearing small pin in shape of bird. Buried in District 12. Grave marker simple. Haymitch Abernathy. Mentor. 50th Games victor. He tried. The devastating verdict, nightlock divergence, doesn't produce worse world than canon timeline in every respect. Hunger Games end. Capital's spectacular ritual of domination destroyed. 75 years of compulsory child murder stops. Not small things, but martyr timeline produces war that's longer, bloodier, less morally coherent, because lacks specific corrective one person provided. Not as military commander, not as propagandist, not as symbol, as human being who kept asking, what are we becoming? Not identically, not day one, but gradually, through accumulation of necessary choices, each defensible in isolation, each pushing trajectory few degrees closer to world they claim to tear down. Coin wins. Districts free. Games over. New government, unchallengeable, unreformed, unchecked by any force capable of holding it accountable, settles over Panem like new kind of snow. Coriolanus Snow's last words dismissed as raving of dying tyrant. In this, as in so much else, he's wrong about everything except one thing that matters most. The martyrs died for something real. They died too soon, before war was won. More importantly, before anyone else ready to ask questions only they could ask. Symbols cannot do that work. Only people can. And the people were gone. 15 years after the berries, Gale Hawthorne dies. Heart attack, sudden, alone in Capitol apartment, age 34. No family, no friends, no mourners at funeral. Buried in District 2's military cemetery, grave marker, Gale Hawthorne, the Butcher of 12, Commander, Special Operations. He won. He won. Cost everything. Won anyway. Coin still president. Transitional authority now permanent. Elections still postponed. Security conditions never met. Never will be. Plutarch Heavensby, older now, still working within system, still achieving small victories, still failing to prevent fundamental corruption. Knows what they built, knows what they lost. Continues anyway, because alternative is admitting it was for nothing. The martyr edit still circulates underground. New generation watches it, sees Katniss and Peeta, buries death, choice. Doesn't fully understand what it meant, what it cost, what it failed to prevent. Just knows 2 people from District 12 chose death over submission once, and everything changed. just not the way anyone expected. The end, in memory of Katniss Everdeen and Peeta Mellark, who died choosing each other over a system that demanded their compliance. In memory of the 8,000 rebels who died fighting for freedom that never fully arrived. In memory of the 50,000 civilians who died in the crossfire between two sides claiming to fight for them. In memory of the victors who became hostages. In memory of Seneca Crane, executed for hesitating. In memory of everyone who died believing it would be worth it. May we remember that symbols without people to embody them are just images. That martyrs without voices to interpret them can mean anything. That revolutions without moral foundations become what they fought against. The Mockingjays sing. They survived. Capital mutations crossed with natural birds shouldn't exist, but do. Thriving symbol of survival through adaptation, through resistance, through becoming something the oppressor never intended, like the rebellion, like the victors who suffered, like the districts that fought, becoming something unexpected, something unintended, something that couldn't decide if it was better or just different. The games are over, the arena's silent. The tributes buried, Katniss and Peeta rest together in District 12's Memorial Garden. The girl who volunteered and the boy who loved her, dead at 16, frozen in that moment of choice forever. And Panem lives on, changed, free from one horror, not yet free from all of them, still learning what freedom means when the people who defined it are gone.